Well, thank you very much for the invitation to talk to you today, and my apologies for not being with you in person. I promise you it has nothing to do with volcanic ash. I just need to be in New York for the launch of a new service here at Thomson Reuters, where I now work as global editor for multimedia. In that capacity, I'm sure you'll all appreciate that the last few weeks have been very troubling for Reuters News, and troubling for those of us responsible for the safety and care of our 2,800 journalists around the world. In the 2 or so years that I've been here at Reuters, I've become very conscious of the fact that this is an organization that regards safety and the welfare of our staff as absolutely our first responsibility. Reuters doesn't just talk safety. Unlike some other organizations, it walks it as well. It practices it every day, talks about it frequently, revises its systems and structures all the time, and crucially, learns from experience. I'd go as far to suggest it's the industry leader in this space. So you'll all appreciate that losing our cameraman Hiro Muramato during the riots in Bangkok just a few weeks ago was a terrible blow, not just to us, but to the entire industry. Yet another member of the media gunned down while doing his job. According to the International News Safety Institute, he was one of at least 27 media workers to die so far this year. And if that wasn't bad enough for us, it came at the end of a week during which video emerged of the killing of 2 other Reuters employees in Baghdad 3 years ago. 2 staffers who were killed by the crew of an Apache helicopter over the streets of the city. Needless to say, we continue to press the US authorities for answers to our questions as to why they were killed and the circumstances surrounding their deaths. The editor-in-chief of Reuters, David Schlesinger, my boss, and one of the key people in my industry when it comes to media safety, wrote in the London Guardian a few weeks ago that only with the official publication of the video showing their deaths did the world finally have the transparency it needed about these deaths. What he and what we at Reuters and all of us in this industry require from the Pentagon and from all militaries is transparency and accountability. The media has an absolute right to be on a battlefield, any battlefield. It's our choice, and our colleagues make it on behalf of the rest of the world. We have a right to be there to witness what's going on, frequently what's going on in our names. And we also have an absolute right to know why we're killed. Simply put, we're no longer prepared to accept the excuse that a camera looks like a rocket launcher, that if the media are on the front line, then they must take the consequences. As Schlesinger went on to say, any war prosecuted in darkness is a war without accountability. The journalist's role is vital for a democracy, and it must be acknowledged. We understand that some soldiers in warfare repeatedly mistake cameras and tripods for weapons, which they're not. We believe that with modern technology, there has to be a way of training soldiers to distinguish the difference. So, this couldn't be a more poignant time to ask ourselves where we are with the ongoing challenges in covering wars and civil disturbances in particular, covering the world at large more generally. One thing is pretty certain to me. No longer do I work in an industry which has its head in the sand when it comes to this issue. In that respect, I do think we've certainly grown up. I was full of admiration in Australia and New Zealand last year when so many journalists, so many aspiring journalists, and so many interested parties from the ICRC and other NGOs were so willing to come forward and talk about the challenges of reporting wars. I was also humbled at the number of journalists of my generation, let's call them the old war horses, who were inclined to share their experiences and also share their horrors and some of their private demons, the thoughts they carry after covering so much human tragedy. As I said, as an industry, I believe we've grown up. I had proof of this again when I spoke to a group of media students and also representatives from the civil authorities, police, fire workers, care workers in Vermont, here in the States a few weeks ago. For the first time ever, I experienced a real, tangible acknowledgement that maybe we'd begun to understand our respective roles in society, and also a sensitivity towards what in particular the media does in the wake of natural and man-made tragedies. I was also reminded that the trust between society and the media particularly during tough times, is a very fragile thing. It's frequently very tentative, and bad journalism can break that bond. And we all know there are examples of bad journalism out there these days. Crass, insensitive journalism practiced by some journalists who think the story is all about them, which of course it never is, and it never will be. So let me end by thanking you for the chance of talking to you all, apologising again for not being there in person, and I wish you well during this seminar. Thank you.